One ordinary day at Summit Bank in Hawkins, Texas. Manager Lana Prescott refused to serve a customer simply because he was wearing a MAGA hat. But what she didn't know was that the man was none other than Elon Musk. When he returned the next day, not only to confront her decision, but also to bring with him a great lesson about judgment and change. Before starting the story, please leave a comment where you're reading this. We would love to know how far it's spreading and your thoughts on it. The atmosphere at Summit Bank in Hawkins, Texas was lively during the midday rush. Every clock on the wall seemed to beat in time with the hustle and bustle of customers handling their business. Employees in business suits moved quickly between the counters, exchanging paperwork and completing transactions, while older customers sat in chairs, chatting with each other and sharing warm smiles. Unhurried. Lana Prescott, the respected branch manager, sat behind her desk, focused on a pile of loan documents. Her long brown hair was neatly tied back, and her face reflected the decisiveness of someone who had been in this job for over 20 years. Everything seemed to be following its usual course until the door creaked open quietly. A strange sound that caught everyone's attention for a few seconds. A tall figure stepped inside, disrupting the tranquil atmosphere. Unlike most other customers who wore suits, this man wore a bright red hat with the white slogan, "Make America Great Again," on it. The attire immediately drew attention. The hat, though simple, was capable of stirring many emotions in the minds of the people present. The man walked in like a gust of wind, disturbing the calm of the place. Lana frowned slightly, her eyes fixed on the hat. Memories of an uncomfortable argument with a previous customer rushed to her mind. She couldn't help but associate the hat with tense confrontations, and a natural wariness began to rise in her. A wave of discomfort spread, but Lana quickly regained her composure and whispered to Mia, her assistant, in a low voice, just loud enough for Mia to hear. "Watch this guy. Don't let this situation get complicated." At that moment, the man had made his way to Lana's counter. He looked at her, smiling politely, but his eyes betrayed a sense of seriousness. "Hello?" he said, his voice warm but firm. "I need to make a withdrawal." Lana looked up, glancing quickly at him, and only replied stiffly, "Do you have your ID and account information?" "Here," the man said, reaching out and placing his card and documents on the desk. Lana didn't rush to glance over the paperwork. An inexplicable sense of unease began to build. The man's name was unfamiliar, and the hat on his head only intensified her feelings. She couldn't focus on anything other than her thoughts. "I'm sorry," she said, unable to hide the tension in her voice. "We can't process this request today." The man was slightly taken aback but didn't lose his composure. "What do you mean?" His voice remained calm, though clearly dissatisfied. Lana responded briefly, not wanting to escalate the situation. "There's nothing wrong with your account, but we have the right to refuse service if we see fit." Around them, the customers began to murmur, and the silence in the air grew heavier. The sense that something was wrong started to spread. The man stood there, silently staring at her, his eyes seemingly unwilling to overlook any detail. "So, what did I do wrong?" he asked again, his tone now sharper. Lana looked him in the eye, a mix of pride and anxiety rising within her. "I don't want to argue anymore. If you need, you can go to another branch to handle this." The man didn't say another word. He quietly gathered his papers, adjusted his hat, and walked out without speaking further. The stillness filled the room, leaving only exchanged glances, headshakes, and shrugs of confusion over what had just transpired. But within a few minutes, something truly unexpected was about to unfold, leaving all the witnesses unable to predict what was coming. As the glass door closed behind the man, a soft thud echoed, and the atmosphere inside the bank suddenly became dense and suffocating. Lana Prescott, the branch manager at Summit Bank, remained seated, her hands pressed firmly on the desk while the curious stares from the surrounding customers never left her. She sighed, trying to push away the feeling of exhaustion and the disapproving glances. She told herself that her decision was the right one. Or at least, she wanted to believe that. Mia, Lana's assistant, quietly approached and bent down, whispering while studying her face. "Do you really think that action was necessary?" Mia asked, her voice carrying a hint of concern. Lana took a deep breath, trying to maintain her composure. "I don't want to repeat the mistakes from last time. I don't want this place to become another political battleground." Outside the window, the man stood on the sidewalk, his hands lightly brushing over the hat as if contemplating whether to remove it. However, he simply turned back and glanced through the bank's windows, his face unreadable. Then, without a word, he continued walking, leaving the silence to settle once more. Customers near the door started murmuring to each other, their curiosity barely concealed. "I don't know who he is, but he doesn't seem angry at all," an older man said loudly, glancing toward the door. "He seems like a polite person, but maybe he did something to make them refuse him. Anyway, this is a private bank," a middle-aged woman added, her face indifferent. Lana heard the gossip but didn't react, continuing to type on her computer, pretending as if nothing had happened. However, she couldn't avoid the tension that the conversations brought. For the first time in many years, Lana felt uneasy about a situation like this. Normally, people would react, at least speak out in protest or ask to speak with a higher manager. But this man had remained silent, walked away without a word, with a calmness that was almost unsettling. She couldn't understand if he was truly enduring it or just controlling his emotions to an extreme degree. By the end of the afternoon, the story of the man had become the main topic around the office. Lana overheard snippets of conversations as employees left for the day. "He's definitely going to come back," a teller whispered to another. "We haven't seen his real reaction yet." "I don't think he's the type to get angry easily," the other replied, with a tone full of doubt. Lana hurriedly locked her office door behind her and ignored the comments. She tried to convince herself that everything was over. The man would go to another branch. There was nothing to worry about. People like him usually didn't cause direct trouble. They did it in other ways, on social media platforms. She thought that this was just an unavoidable situation, and things would return to normal soon. As Lana Prescott drove home late in the afternoon, her mind kept spinning. She tried to find comfort in the music playing on the radio, but even her favorite tunes couldn't soothe the unease that lingered within her. The image of the man with the red hat was still vivid in her mind, walking out of the bank with an oddly calm demeanor. Maybe tomorrow everything would become clear, she told herself, but a part of her couldn't fully relax. The next morning, the soft light of dawn streamed through the bank's windows, creating a warm atmosphere that was in stark contrast to the heavy mood inside. Lana arrived at the bank earlier than usual, holding a cup of coffee and her scattered thoughts. She tried to convince herself that today would be like any other day and that the man from yesterday wouldn't return. But deep down, Lana knew that things might not go as she expected. The day went by rather peacefully until exactly 10:30 a.m., when the bank's door opened once again, causing an unusual silence to fall. Lana looked up, her eyes wide. It was him, the man from yesterday. But this time, he wasn't alone. Two tall men in sharp black suits flanked him closely. Each step they took commanded attention, making the atmosphere in the bank suddenly tense. Although he still wore the red hat, this man no longer exuded the casual demeanor of yesterday. Each step he took now carried a sense of authority, coldness, completely different from the image of an ordinary man. Mia, Lana's colleague, couldn't stay silent and leaned in close, her voice full of excitement. Lana. That's Elon Musk. Lana blinked, her mind struggling to connect the pieces of a vague puzzle. Are you sure? She asked, her voice trailing off, unable to believe what she had just heard. Mia nodded quickly, her eyes never leaving the man walking toward them. That's him, Elon Musk. The owner of Volt Motors. The tech mogul. You can't be mistaken. Lana's whole body felt numb. Part of her still couldn't believe it because the image of him, with the red hat and simple attire, didn't align with the fame of a globally renowned billionaire. But as the man approached, Lana could no longer deny it. His gaze, the way he moved, was just like what she had seen in the papers and on television programs. Lana's mind suddenly became chaotic, unable to tear her eyes away from him. Was it really Elon Musk? The shock and confusion overwhelmed her, leaving her standing silently, waiting to see what would happen next. When Elon Musk entered, the atmosphere in the room immediately became tense. His footsteps rang out sharply, and for a moment, it seemed like all other sounds around them ceased. He stood in front of Lana Prescott's desk, the red hat in his hand, his cold eyes slicing through the space. Everything around them, from the hum of computers to the soft murmurs, seemed to disappear, replaced by an inexplicable silence. Lana looked up, feeling like she was being drawn into those eyes. The same eyes that always appeared on screens and in newspapers. Now right in front of her. Just a second. But time seemed to stretch endlessly. Elon wasn't in a hurry. He slowly took off his hat, placed it on the desk with a calm gesture. His words didn't come with strength or rebellion, but instead, with an unusual calmness. Hello? His voice was soft, but not lacking in power. I would like to have a few words. Lana swallowed, trying to maintain a professional expression, though her heart was pounding. Mr. Musk? He raised his hand, as if signaling for silence, then continued, without needing to speak loudly, yet still making everyone in the room listen in silence. I'm not here to cause a storm, but I am here to clarify one thing. Yesterday, I was just a customer, but you didn't see me as that. I want you to understand why. Each of his words seemed to carve deep into the silence of the room. Everyone around was motionless, their eyes fixed on the scene. Lana, although trying to keep her composure, felt like she was being pushed out of control by an undercurrent. Elon looked around, as if he wasn't just speaking to Lana. Each of us has our own view of the world. Right? But sometimes, those views are the lenses of ourselves, not of the people we judge. The important thing is how we face them. He didn't rush, leaving each word to linger in the space, letting them sink into every corner of the mind. His hat, once just an ordinary item, now became the focus of the conversation. This hat is just an ordinary object to me, but to some people, it may carry some meaning, perhaps a symbol or something they want to oppose. And yesterday, it was that very hat that made you refuse to serve me. Not because I did anything wrong, but simply because it represented something you thought I stood for. Lana felt her face flush, but not from embarrassment. It was because his insightful gaze had placed her in a position where she had to face truths she had been avoiding. Elon didn't stop there. His voice softened a bit, but still carried weight. No one wants to hurt others. But sometimes, we get swept up by prejudices, by narrow thinking, and what we do after that is what really matters. The whole room was silent as could be. Only the soft breaths of a few people trying to adjust their emotions. Lana didn't dare to look up at him again, but Elon's words still echoed like a loop in her mind. You might think you didn't mean to judge, Elon said, his voice calm. And I understand that. But the important thing is, how will we react when faced with unexpected situations? He turned, his gaze not only staying on Lana but sweeping over the employees and customers around. Then, like a gentle touch on the air, his eyes fell on Emily, the young teller standing behind the counter. Her gaze awkward but still filled with curiosity. "What's your name?" Elon asked, his voice soft but carrying an invisible pressure. I'm Emily," she replied, her voice trembling, but still trying to stay steady. Elon smiled, with a hint of empathy in his eyes. "Emily, if someone came here dressed in a way that you didn't find appealing, would you judge them by their appearance? Or would you take the time to understand who they really are?" Emily hesitated, looking around before finally answering. I would try to treat them fairly, not let their appearance decide." Elon nodded, his smile gentle but carrying a profound truth. "That's a good answer. But as you said, sometimes putting it into practice isn't easy." The entire space in the bank seemed to come to a halt, with everyone's attention focused on Lana. Each step of Elon Musk felt like a powerful wave, making the air in the room grow heavy. He looked at her, not rushing, not burdened by emotion, only an unusual clarity radiating from his bright eyes. Lana could feel the tension surrounding her. She stood still, not daring to breathe loudly, just hoping he would say something she could argue against. But Elon didn't rush. He gently placed his hat on the desk, glancing at her as if searching for something. "We don't always understand the motives of others, Lana." His voice was gentle but filled with insight. "Decisions are sometimes made from hasty judgments, and they can leave wounds we don't realize." Lana felt like she was being pushed into a dark corner. She wanted to say that she was just doing her job, that the hat meant nothing but a symbol of controversy. But standing before Elon's unshakable calm, she couldn't find the words. Elon continued, but not to criticize. "I don't think you meant to offend me, Lana. It's just that sometimes we act without understanding the consequences of the assumptions we make. Every action sends a message, and the message I received yesterday was, 'You're not welcome here.'" Lana felt like her heart was being squeezed. Every eye around her seemed to reflect the truth she didn't want to face. It wasn't just Elon Musk, but all the customers who had been judged, criticized without clear reason. This sense of exclusion wasn't new to her. But today, it made her feel more alone than ever. "This isn't just my problem or yours," Elon said, his voice clear with understanding. "It's our problem. We can change how we perceive and treat others. That's why I'm here." His words were like a beam of light. But Lana still couldn't escape the feeling of humiliation. She thought this would just be a confrontation. But it turned out, Elon wasn't here just to condemn or criticize. Suddenly, he gestured to a man in a black suit, who stepped forward with a luxury briefcase. Elon opened the case and took out a piece of paper, holding it up in front of everyone. "This is my commitment. I will donate $500,000 to the Hawkins Community Support Fund. This is support for the efforts the bank and the community have built over time." The whispers in the room seemed to burst out, unable to be contained. Lana looked at the commitment letter, unsure how to react. Embarrassment, surprise, and a bit of self-doubt mixed within her. Elon continued, unhurried, but his words cut through the awkwardness. "This donation is not for me, but for the community. It reminds us that no matter who we are, no matter what we show on the outside, we can make a difference." Elon placed the paper on the counter, sliding it towards Lana. She looked at it, her hands trembling uncontrollably. Her eyes remained fixed, unable to find the words to respond. "No need to say anything," Elon said with a slight smile. "Let your actions speak for themselves." As he turned and walked out of the room, the atmosphere in the room seemed to tighten. Everyone stood still, no one daring to speak, leaving only a strange feeling in the empty space. The moment Elon Musk left the bank, The atmosphere in the room seemed to explode. Whispers and hushed conversations began to spread throughout the space, pulling everyone into a powerful wave. The staff and customers were still processing what had just happened. Lana remained seated at her desk, tightly gripping the $1 million donation commitment letter that Elon Musk had just signed. But her mind was spinning with conflicting emotions. Part of her felt embarrassed. Another part felt strangely relieved. I must be dreaming. Elon Musk really just did that, Mia said, her voice full of surprise as she stopped beside Lana's desk. And he donated $1 million to the community fund. Don't you think that's overwhelming? Lana could only nod. But the words caught in her throat. Everything still felt like a nightmare in her mind. We can make a difference, no matter who we are or what we carry. Elon's words still echoed in her mind, each word waking her up to the mistakes she had unknowingly made. What mattered wasn't the money, but the message he had sent, that each of us has the power to change and to view one another fairly. The news spread quickly, almost immediately, and the story of Elon Musk became a phenomenon on social media. Short video clips were shared widely, and the headline, Elon Musk condemns discrimination at the bank, donates $1 million to the Hawkins Community Fund, was everywhere, from Twitter to Facebook. Lana's phone kept ringing, with calls and emails from headquarters asking her to clarify the situation. She spent the entire afternoon drafting an official statement, trying to maintain professionalism while facing the public storm. While the bank issued a public statement acknowledging the incident and praising Musk's generosity, it wasn't enough to quell the public backlash. Meanwhile, the community began to change. The Hawkins Community Support Fund, which had always struggled to raise money, suddenly became the center of attention. Previously, the fund only received small donations. But now, with the $1 million from Elon Musk, large projects could finally become a reality. The fund's director, Sophia Lawson, couldn't hide her emotion as she shared the good news at a press conference. This is a turning point for us, she said, her voice choking with emotion. This donation will allow us to expand many programs, support more families, and create a long-lasting impact on the community. We are incredibly grateful to Mr. Musk for his trust and assistance. At Summit Bank, Lana could feel everyone's gaze on her. Some customers couldn't look her in the eye, while others quietly patted her on the back in comfort. An older man, Mr. Harrison, a longtime customer, walked over to Lana's desk after completing his transaction. Lana, I know you feel like you've made a mistake, he said, his voice calm but sincere. But we all make mistakes. The important thing is what you learn from them. Lana nodded, her eyes filled with tears but holding them back. I understand. I didn't expect it to get this serious. Mr. Harrison smiled gently, as if he had seen the confusion in her heart. Mistakes are a part of life. Treat this as a lesson and keep moving forward. Determined to make things right, Lana reached out to the Hawkins Community Support Fund and proposed participating in the allocation of the donation. She also held a meeting with her team, openly acknowledging the mistake and encouraging everyone to reassess the unconscious biases they may have carried with them. We cannot let assumptions guide our actions, Lana said, her eyes filled with resolve. We must do better, not only for ourselves but for the customers we serve. The incident not only stirred up controversy in the bank but also sparked nationwide debates on ethics. People began to question whether they often judged others based on appearance. Social media erupted in heated discussions, with many praising Elon Musk's actions, while others criticized what the bank had done earlier. However, amid all the noise, one thing was clear: that moment had sparked a larger conversation, forcing people to confront their own prejudices. Lana, though unwillingly, had become the center of attention. Her name appeared everywhere, from news articles to social media posts. But instead of just feeling ashamed, Lana began to realize that this was an opportunity for change. Not only for herself but also for the community she lived in. The Hawkins community began to change profoundly after the incident at Summit Bank. People started to re-examine their own thoughts and actions. Conversations among residents on street corners, meetings at City Hall, and prayer sessions at churches were all filled with discussions about prejudice and discrimination. Teachers at schools also encouraged students to learn about the importance of viewing others without letting appearances influence them. This was a turning point for the community, where old perspectives began to shift. Lana Prescott felt this most acutely. After the incident, each night she was confronted with old images of herself. Elon Musk standing in front of her, reminding her of judgments she had once been unaware of. She had thought of herself as fair. But that moment forced her to admit that silent prejudices had always existed within her. The feeling of shame spread. But at the same time, it opened up a new path for her to change. Never before had Lana felt the need for change as much as she did now. She decided to attend workshops on inclusion and encouraged her staff at the bank to participate as well. This not only helped her grow but also created a more open working atmosphere, where people could share and learn from each other. Outside, the community had not stood still. The Hawkins Community Support Fund received strong support from the town's residents. Musk's action had inspired local businesses and individuals, creating a wave of donations. The fund now had enough resources to launch many new programs, including one that helped struggling families learn financial management, a fascinating initiative carried out in partnership with the bank. Although Musk did not comment further on the incident, the impact of his actions continued to linger. Conversations at workshops, in articles, and on social media platforms all centered around the deeper meaning of his action. Some people saw that Musk had proven the value of viewing people beyond their differences. Others saw this action as a warning about the dangers of rushing to judgment. For Lana, the lesson was invaluable. She realized that leadership was not just a position but how one interacted with others. Even in the smallest situations, she saw the change within herself, no longer rushing to judgments or carrying unconscious biases. She began to listen more to people and view them with a greater sense of respect. One afternoon, as Lana was helping an elderly customer familiarize themselves with the new banking app, she heard a familiar voice from behind. "Ms. Prescott, may I bother you for a moment?" Turning around, Lana saw Mr. Harrison, a longtime customer of the bank. He handed her a small envelope with a friendly smile. "I think you'll want to thank me for this," he said, his eyes full of understanding before walking away. Lana opened the envelope and read the letter inside. It was a simple yet profound message. "Truly, every step back helps us move forward. You did the right thing." A gentle smile spread across Lana's face. A warm feeling filled her heart. This wasn't just a word of encouragement, but an acknowledgement of the journey of change she had dared to embark on. She now understood that sometimes all it takes is one small act. One act of forgiveness. One change in perspective to make everything different. The story of Lana Prescott and Elon Musk is not only a lesson in humility, but also a profound reminder of the power of change, understanding, and the ability to learn from mistakes. It proves that sometimes, moments that seem like failures are actually opportunities for us to grow and reflect on ourselves. Prejudices, whether intentional or unintentional, can hinder our connection with others around us. But humility, listening, and the ability to change are the keys to overcoming our own limitations. Each of us can make a difference, not by changing others, but by changing the way we perceive and treat them. When we face our own mistakes courageously and are willing to learn, we not only change our own lives but also impact the community around us. Remember, our actions, even the smallest ones, can spread and spark positive change. If this story resonates with you, don't hesitate to share it with others, so they too can feel the value of understanding and kindness. And if you've never tried to change a perspective, start today. Your change could be the beginning of a new journey, a journey toward a better community, where every individual is respected and valued. If this story has touched your heart and made you reflect on the values of life, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss other lessons, inspiring stories, and profound moments. We are always ready to share powerful messages to help you grow. Think positively and spread kindness. Let's continue our journey of exploring meaningful stories. And don't forget to share them with your loved ones. Click the subscribe button to walk together on the path of change and growth. Note, this story is fictional, created for entertainment purposes and to convey profound messages about life. The lessons in the story may inspire reflection on the value of humility, understanding, and second chances. But all events and characters are constructed to serve the purpose of sparking positive thoughts. We hope this story will be a source of inspiration for you in real life.